All of this is with regard to how the state and national governments work together, or if they work together at all. What if there is a disagreement between the national government and the state governments? Well, we have two competing principles in the United States: state sovereignty and national supremacy. In times when there are disagreements between the national and state governments, the national government is supposed to take precedent. And sometimes this will take place through a process called preemption. When the national government gets a hint that a state government is about to do something that it doesn't like, it can make a national policy that will then negate the state action. Sometimes this can happen between a state and local government as well. A famous example here in Texas was when the city of Denton banned the practice of fracking. For those of you that don't know, fracking is the process by which natural gas is extracted from shale in the earth. And the problem with fracking is that it's safe until it isn't. There have been a lot of instances where natural gas leaked, got into the earth, into the water, and into a town's water supply. If you Google, in fact, image search of towns whose water supplies have been affected by natural gas through the process of fracking, people can literally light their water on fire. And so Denton decided to ban the practice. The state government of Texas, however, did not want this to occur, I guess fearing that it might damage the energy industry. And so they passed law at the state level that actually banned municipalities from banning fracking. And this is what's called preemption. It can take place between the state and local governments, just as it can take place between the national and state governments. So I mentioned dual and cooperative federalism. There's also a conception of coercive federalism. And this is where the federal government does not bend the state to its will through law or through any sort of statutory means. Let me give an example of how it can happen, though. So the national government provides the states with a lot of funding, for example, for education and highways. The state governments, however, make rules and regulations that govern how education policy is implemented and rules for driving, such as how old you can be to get a license, or, and this pertains to driving, the drinking age. So a famous example of how coercive federalism played out historically actually occurred in the 1980s. At that time, most states had different drinking ages. It wasn't uniformly 21 across the board. The national government, however, wanted there to be a uniform drinking age and campaigned to have states raise the drinking age to 21. Most states did this, with one famous example. Louisiana declined to raise their drinking age. They kept it at 19. In order to try to convince them to raise it, the United States government decided to withhold highway funding from the state of Louisiana. And if you've ever taken a road trip, for example, to New Orleans over the weekend, you know that as soon as you cross the Louisiana border, you're basically playing Russian roulette with your suspension. It is noticeable the impact that the lack of highway funding from the federal government has impacted state highways in Louisiana to the present day. That's why Louisiana eventually relented and raised the drinking age in order to access those highway funds to maintain their road systems. So state governments can find themselves in a very bad place financially, for example, if they defy the will of the national government. And that's how it played out with Louisiana.